Z. Oh no, hang on. Z.
Okay, do over.
When you've lived here for a while, you're like, what's my word? I can't remember.
In today's video, we're going to review 60 words that Americans and Britons pronounce differently, and not just with our own unique accents, but just a totally different approach to the word. And joining me for this fun will be my friend from across the pond, Lucy.
I'm so excited to be back with my friend Lucy today from Brit Girls Go Stateside. And we don't have both the Brit Girls because one of them is not stateside. Julie is actually in England right now. So it's just Lucy and I that will be doing our pronunciation video today. On their channel, Lucy and her mom, Julie, talk about Britain and British culture from the perspective of Britons who live in Arizona, as opposed to my channel where I talk about Britain from the perspective of an American who lives in Texas or Gloucestershire. We're good friends and we love doing videos together. I have to say a couple caveats before we jump in. First of all, there are lots of regional differences both in the US and the UK. So this is YouTube. We are choosing options for dramatic effect. But if you, kind viewer, feel like we've got it wrong, I don't say it that way, and I'm from England or US or whatever, feel free to tell us in the comments what we've gotten wrong and how you say it. The other caveat is all these words, when I put them on the screen, are going to be spelled the American way, even though many of these words are spelled differently, differently in Britain as opposed to the States. And if any of these pronunciations really bug you, feel free to tell us. We want to hear your venting, your grievances. I certainly have some of these that really bug me. Our first word is
address
or address. Now this is interesting because Americans actually say both address and address depending on if it's a verb or a noun. So I would like you to address the crowd and tell them how to write your address.
adult,
Adult.
advertisement,
Advertisement.
almond.
Almond.
I've got a joke if you don't mind. Farmers will often tell you you call it almond on the tree and almond on the ground because you shake the L out of it.
Oh, brother.
Wah, wah, wah.
All right, next one. This is a very controversial one.
Aluminium,
Aluminum.
amenities,
Ian watches this British real estate show where they show London real estate, and every time they talk about the amenities in a flat, I just go, oh, that sounds weird. Amenities.
apricot,
Apricot. I grew up saying apricot, but truthfully, I say apricot now. But for the purpose of this video, apricot.
aunt,
Aunt. Although my brother says aunt, and he's as American as I am, but whatever.
Oh, someone commented on one of our videos once that sometimes it's aunt on the East Coast.
Yeah, but my brother grew up in the same place as me.
Oh,
I think it's just pretentious. I'm going to wait for him to watch this video and defend himself.
banana,
Banana.
basil,
Basil. And this, of course, is a word that made me think we need to do a whole separate video on names, because the whole British name versus American thing, I think, would be a really good thing to discuss.
absolutely. Well, Basil is one I don't think I could ever change because it's my granddad's name, so it's a special one.
Oh, that is a very special one.
Bath,
Bath.
bean,
Ben. Oh, funny thing, you know, Ian grew up in California, but he would spend his summers in Britain. And by the time it was the end of the summer and he would come back home to California, he wouldn't have a British accent, but he would say a couple words differently. And one of them was bean. He would get teased at school.
caramel,
Caramel. Although if you watch any of my chocolate taste test videos, which by the way, you really should, I do say caramel because I did work for a couple chocolate companies in my adulthood and learned how to say caramel, but I grew up saying caramel.
centrifugal,
Centrifugal. That is a word we learn in middle school in science class, and we've only ever heard it as centrifugal. And then we hear Brits say it that other way, and it's like, what?
Well, actually, I had no idea that one was different until I saw it on your list. So I've learned something. Civilization.
Civilization.
Clerk.
Clerk. That one is weird.
That's weird, isn't it? Controversy.
Controversy. If you said it the British way in the US, you would totes get laughed at.
Yes, my husband was very, very surprised when he heard me say controversy. I think he just thought I was wrong. Either.
Either. I grew up saying either, but now I say it either way.
Evolution.
Evolution.
Figure.
Figure. This is a word I notice every time I watch Escape to the Country, because they always talk about different data points of housing prices, and they always say figure.
Fillet.
Fillet. And I have a theory, which I'm going to introduce here, which we will bring up later. And that is that lots of times with words that have an origin from another country other than our own, Americans will try and say it a little bit like country of origin way. We don't always do it perfectly, but we at least make an attempt. And quite often, I feel like the Brits are like, oh, filet mignon.
Yes, I think we've got so many loan words that we kind of feel like we have to make them our own.
Let me do a quick little advertisement for the Brit Girls Go Stateside channel to let you know that today they have published a video about British versus American pronunciation of brand names. So be sure you check it out, as well as our other collab videos on British and American words. Check out those links in the description, please.
Fortune.
Fortune, like fortune teller.
Garage.
Garage. I can never remember how Brits say that. I'm like, they say garage funny. How is it again? And I finally figured it out the other day. Because I think some Brits say it differently. They don't all say it the same way. So if you live in Britain, tell us if you say garage like rhymes with marriage, or you say it a different way, because I think there's yet a third way of saying it.
H.
H. I had to include that one on the list because Renaissance Man 65 brought it up, the fact that Brits and Americans say it differently, and there will be another letter of the alphabet later in the list.
What could that be?
It's alphabetized, in case you haven't noticed.
Herb.
Herb. Although I have learned to ask for my herbal tea when in Britain.
Yes, or you will get picked up on it. Someone will comment about it, I'm sure. Hygienic.
Yeah, hygienic. That one's like amenity. Just sounds wrong.
Innovative.
Innovative.
Leisure.
Leisure.
Lieutenant.
Lieutenant. This is one that comes up all the time in British crime dramas. So all of us Anglophiles are like, what's a lieutenant? And then we see it written. It's like, whoa, it's not written with an F in it? Very
Right, yeah. And apparently this is another one where Brits were just trying to escape the French pronunciation. So we just changed it to lieutenant. Mom.
Ma'am. And this is another one that comes up. I've seen this discussed among Anglophiles who love watching British crime dramas, because of course, these shows like Vera and lots of other ones, the most senior ranking person on the team is female. So they'll come back from, interrogating witnesses, and they'll report back and they'll refer to the woman in charge as what sounds like mum. And we're like, whoa, she's not their mother. Why are they saying that? Because unless you have your subtitles on, you have no clue that they're saying ma'am in their British way.
I have noticed that Americans will use ma'am a lot more. I get called ma'am a lot out here. Whereas in the UK, no one ever calls me mum. That's mostly for like royalty.
Yeah.
Margarine.
Margarine.
Mask.
Mask. Now, I know this one is kind of cheating. I said we weren't going to do things that really play on accents, but this is just such a pandemic word. And every time I hear a British person say mosque, it just it doesn't sound like the same word to me.
Yeah, it's very different sounding in our accent. Yes, I think it deserves to be on the list. Massage.
Massage,
Mobile.
mobile,
Orange.
orange,
Oregano.
oregano.
Otter.
Well, I used to say otter until I started an Anglophile YouTube channel. I'm not going to tell you to go watch my first videos, but I did say otter. But now I try to say otter, so it doesn't sound like the word has D's in it. Because while I am odder than the average otter, I'm trying to pronounce things like my channel name in the British way.
Pasta.
So speaking of old videos, the very first video on my channel is confusing British food words, and I got on a rant about pasta and a second word on this list because I'm like, wait a minute, this sounds inconsistent. So Lucy, what do you call a reverend minister, someone looking over their flock of parishioners? What do you call him? And it's a word that starts with T.
That would be a pasta.
So it's a pasta, but it's pasta.
That's right. We've just swapped the pronunciation there. Patent.
I think it's patently obvious that this one is patent.
Pecan.
It is pecan. We have a lot of pecan pie here in Texas. And when Ian and I got married and 6 months later went to England for our wedding reception at his mom's house, they had pecan pie. And when I heard them pronouncing it pecan, like, you've got to be kidding me.
Pecan just sounds a bit like a bird noise to us. Pita.
Pita. And I want to know how people say it, where pita bread comes from. So y'all say pita or pita? You need to settle this debate.
Maybe we can finally figure out who's got it right. I thought people were literally saying Peter like someone's name, like when, when I heard them say Pita. Privacy.
Privacy.
Process.
Process.
Route.
I grew up saying route, but Route 66 is always called Route 66. So that's definitely a regional thing in the US.
Router.
Okay, that one drives me crazy. It is router. And I might be okay with Route 66, but when someone calls the thing in my flat in England a router, I'm like, oh, nails on a chalkboard.
Saucepan.
Saucepan.
Schedule.
Schedule.
Simultaneous.
Simultaneous.
Speciality.
Specialty.
Squirrel.
Squirrel. That's one we love to hear each other say.
Yes.
And the best person to hear say this is a Scottish person. The R goes on for a long time.
Love it. I won't attempt my Scottish accent
Same.
today.
Same.
Status.
Status.
Taco.
Taco. It's tacky to say taco.
Taco Bell sounds kind of awful, doesn't it?
Truly. I mean, it is kind of awful, but it only is worse when you say that.
Tomato.
Tomato. And this is one that I do say tomato when I am in Britain.
Yes. I sometimes say tomato, just for ease out here. Just to blend. Vase.
Vase. Although if you're American and you have a very, very expensive vase, you will call it a vase, just to be more posh.
Yeah. Versatile.
Versatile.
Via.
Via. Although if we're referring to that bridge thingy, we call it a viaduct. Don't ask me why.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Vitamins.
Vitamins.
Water.
Water. And this is one that you've had to say the American way to blend in at restaurants, haven't you?
Yes, many times. The worst thing is when you're holding up the queue or the line because the person you're talking to doesn't understand that you want water. So yes, I switched to water a lot now. Yogurt.
Yogurt.
Z.
Z.
Zebra.
Zebra. Yay, we're done.
We did it.
Yes. Thank you to Lucy for doing this little pronunciation exercise with me. Thank you to you for watching. Check out our other collab videos, please, and do something good in the world today.